Can you guys wave or something if you can hear me? Okay, I can't hear. I'm not hearing anything.
We didn't have microphones on. Can you
Can you
hear
hear
us?
me now?
Yep, hear you perfectly. That's fine.
We're talking about vacations and biking and some other stuff. All the important things to make sure we get recorded.
1 minute to 1 o'clock. Rob, you had mentioned that you thought you had written a letter of support for the Syracuse Wawasee Trail.
For the extension to the middle school.
And the volunteer that had contacted me, I got back to
Mhm.
Steve and I told him, and he said, we can't find it.
Oh, we can do another one.
So I don't know if MACOG may have gotten the letter.
Yeah, I thought I sent it to Donnie, so I can look and we can do
If
another
I can
one.
clarify
I
that.
think he even shared it with us too, I think.
Anyway, and I brought, if we wanted something, I brought a draft that you could sign,
Okay.
but just to make sure we. Takes
Why
care of
not?
it.
Who wants to do the
No.
prayer before we start? Other than Mike. Anybody?
I'm happy to pray for us.
You're, okay, let's get started. Okay, let's start with the pledge and the prayer, and then we'll call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings of today. Thank you for this group and our work. We pray that you would be with us. Amen.
Amen. So I call the July meeting of the Kosciuszko Parks and Recreation Board to order. I was just seeing there's minutes here. We probably ought to approve the minutes. Does everybody want to take a moment and look through those, or if there's a motion, I'll hear a motion.
So how does just curious, since Matt's not here, will you just get his signature at a future date? Ah, okay.
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes for the June 29th and July 11th meetings as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Yep. I'll second that.
We have motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved.
You want me to just start signing
Yep.
one?
Bring
Okay.
them on.
Sounds good. So next item, it was to continue the RFP draft discussion. Thank you, Mr. New, for being on. If you didn't see, he sent us a fully fledged draft RFP, what, about an hour ago? I did take that and oh, you do need to approve screen sharing. I can't. It says host disabled, participant screen share.
Is that me? I need to enable it?
I'm gonna share mine because I've been working on it. Yep, I think so. Okay, so what I did was I took Dustin's draft, I threw it into our share folder. I then shared that document with Dustin and Donnie at BayCog as well, so they can get into our working draft and make changes. I did add our logo pursuant to some of the discussions we've had. I did include the one with the text on it because I believe we're all of a consensus that, and Joni Truex is, I think, the one recommended this, that we always use the text if we're able to.
Yeah.
So certainly we'll do that.
I sent an email about that and I
Yes.
think it's in any document or any utilization, the first time someone sees it, just good marketing branding practice is to have the words there. Now, later on in the document, or say it's a trail marking, the trailhead would have the full logo, the icon, which is just the picture portion, the logo is the icon plus the words. So the logo would be at the trailhead, but you might choose to use in a document or on a trail marking, just the icon later, but it's been clearly identified with the words that, when someone first sees a document or, is at a location with it.
So again, the majority of this is, fair to say, Dustin, this is your draft, normal stuff from ACOG?
Yeah, for the most part. Just, yeah, kind of customized for you guys for this particular project.
So our real key point was there was a project overview where Justin had a spot for us to put in our goals. I grabbed largely the scope of work out of the one I was working on, which we had talked about what all we wanted them to do, and threw it in here. It's not exactly what I think was looking for, but Dustin, you probably haven't seen that before, so maybe you can look at that and make recommendations on anything we should change. But other than that, and I know some of you probably haven't even seen this yet since the email was pretty recent. Gosh, I think it's largely ready to go. With the exception again of making sure that this section discusses the project goals that we agreed upon.
What's highlighted in that? Can you remind us on that?
Those were changes that we made at the last meeting that I left highlighted. So we would remember to discuss them today. The first highlighted one was one where we talked about, we really wanted to talk about how do we tell them what we want in terms of blue ways. So I did change it. I forget the term we had there. I changed it to identify those that could be blue ways as maybe a better idea of what our goal really was. We had conduct a thorough analysis. I took thorough out. I think we talked about, we really don't want a complete analysis of all the lakes and streams. We want to know what ones are viable for blue ways. And then I know there was a discussion that in the next line, I added pull-off / landings for camping, because there's been some discussion that we really want that as something that the vendor thinks about as they're looking at that.
Do we need to, I don't want to overthink this, but with the camping, do we need to clarify into more of a dispersed camping? So there's not an expectation that this is going to be a full, like, pull in lots with sites and that versus just,
Let's just put dispersed in there.
okay. And then I guess the
And
broader
I
question,
don't know what dispersed is.
So
The
dispersed
term
tends to-
Primitive camping.
Yeah.
Might help to define what I think we want to.
they're very similar. And I
Okay.
probably will get the definition wrong. To me, disperse, the difference is still primitive camping, but not, there's no reservations. It's first come, first serve.
Mhm,
And in a lot of like the national forests,
mhm.
as long as you're X amount of feet away from a waterway, you can camp wherever you want, and they call that dispersed camping. And there are some identified spots, but you don't have to use those. In this case, yeah, primitive camping may work because we'd like to have identified locations where it could be camping. And I think my only other thing, as we're on the camping topic, this speaks to waterways. And we have had the discussion on greenways as well.
Yeah.
And so, I'm interested in including the language from the greenway side, but I also understand that not every single greenway is necessarily, I'm cautious. I wouldn't want the vendor to go real deep in this space,
Mhm.
kind of the same, a comprehensive plan versus identifying potential locations on major routes.
Mike, thinking about that spot, so I changed that to be its own line. Because one of the things I didn't like about the way it was, is it was in a line that talked about water, and we want that to be true for the
Greenways. yeah.
greenways as
too.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I was gonna say, Aggie, on the C&O Canal, the C&O Canal is a national park from end to end, and every 5 miles, they have built a bump out where you can camp.
Okay,
And that's sort of the concept, I think, that along the greenways, we may end up talking about.
Yeah.
And there's a wellhead at every one of them.
Yeah.
So it's sort of in a picture.
That's a mix. though. I
Yeah.
mean, some of the campsites, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking along the Gap Trail, like in Connellsville, sorry. Not everyone knows that, but Rob does. There isn't a wellhead, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's just a shelter and or a location to do it.
So,
I'm good with that. When just the term campground or
Yeah,
camping
Right.
sites came up, I wanted to make sure that no one thought we were talking about electrical
Correct.
hookups
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
and bathroom maintenance, you know.
There's actually one on the Wabash River Trail.
Okay,
It's just right off of Highway 15 here. I know that everybody can't see it, but Rob
know
can
that.
see it. It's on my map. There's
Great.
right there on the Wabash River off of Highway 15, there's an exact example of
Okay.
this campsite that we're talking about.
we may have to find it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right behind the speedway pretty much.
So
15.
Dustin, I know you hadn't seen what I put in there before. What's your initial thoughts on that? Is that what we should be looking at, or is that too much, too little?
I like it. I don't, there's, to me, there's always kind of a fine line between too much. Kind of as we talked last time, the more you give them, you know, the better they can narrow down their scope,
Okay,
without giving them, you know, the answers that you think you're looking for.
okay.
So I had a chance to look at this right before I came over to the meeting, and I have two comments. They may or may not be anything that needs something to change, but it might be helpful to clarify. The first one is there's reference to Kosciuszko County Parks Department, and we are the Parks and Recreation Board. I don't want anyone to feel that if this says Parks Department, we're implying
Yeah, no, I agree.
more than what we are. I don't want a potential consultant to think that. I also don't want our governing our elected officials.
we
to
haven't
think that.
created that structure and we don't know what direction we're going yet, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
That's fine. And then the second, as we talk about Blue Ways, I want to make sure two things are clear. One, it, like the greenways, it's non-motorized. Now, it depends on how you read this, if you think that's what it's saying or not. And then also with a county with over 100 lakes, there can be blue ways on lakes. But what we've been talking about and prioritizing is rivers and streams. So I just want to have us make that clear.
I am not
Thinking.
sure what this is doing at this point in time.
That's gotta be operator error.
That's pretty fantastic.
No, I think, I think Robert put in language like canoeing, kayaking and paddle boards, but the non-motorized may be good. And I think the other,
No, I think there's been two versions.
Oh, okay.
and Today I was looking at the version that Justin had worked on today, and I don't think it was quite as clear
okay,
in that effect.
You're
Yeah.
right, that.
I
that
just wanted to make
section-
sure it
yeah.
stayed in.
You know what we can do is we can go back here to.
But I think
We
much
can,
of,
we can pull these two sections out.
Okay.
And just add those to our scope in the second one.
There you go.
Can't really see, it's got a. So. Does that then include the language that I think you were looking for?
yeah.
So the
We
first
can't
one,
see as much,
the
but
first
we
one
can
is the
I'm with
definition.
you, Rhonda. I was like,
I can see it, no problem. I don't know what your issue is.
Now, it might need some wordsmithing as we cut and paste,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And then on your second point, I think it kind of gets to, let's not try to cover, let's be cautious, not trying to cover every single potential blue way,
Yeah.
right? Versus as their language around identify the primary rivers and streams
Mhm.
that can be utilized for blue ways, and
Yeah.
lakes would be connectors or something
Yeah.
Yeah.
between those.
And I would think that for those that choose to participate in the pre-RFP meeting, that'll give us a chance
Yeah.
to nail these
Clarify
down
that.
more, don't you
Yeah.
think? Looking at one of our potential vendors. What do you think so far?
Me?
Oh, no, Dustin, we have. Yeah, you can't see the people in the audience. Sorry
Oh.
about that.
Sorry.
Well, with that, I think, Dustin, was there any other place where we really needed to chime in particular?
A couple of things that I was not 100% clear on were the dates, kind of at the very beginning, and then they're kind of peppered toward the end as well. I kind of plugged in dates as placeholders.
Right.
So yeah, so make sure you guys review those.
Yeah, Let me address that one first. I think that what we'll need to do is approve this draft. I'll then get it over to the county administrator. I think that they want the county attorney to look at it as well before
Good.
we do anything else. So I think our dates are still floating at this point in time, to be quite honest. At least
Okay.
that's my understanding of what they're wanting.
I left in the reference to the Indiana State Department of Health, and we were kind of questioning whether or not that even needs to be in there.
Where's that at?
Page 4.
Talks
Right.
about some of the funding for this, to pay for this project.
Yep, you just passed it.
Yeah,
Great.
I just want to see what else was under that section. No, I think the way you've got that left is appropriate. We do believe that Winona Lake is going to allow us to use their funds. So probably the vendor should be aware that there may be restrictions that are subject to the State Department of Health. So I think it's wise to leave that in there.
Okay, good. And then the last thing may be a major thing, but so that when you guys saw the examples that we had, the Elkhart Goshen one had a steering committee as part of this process. And that was part of who the consultant would coordinate with. I basically took all of that out and just inaccurately put it all in as the Parks Department. So, again, we were kind of talking internally. I went with the way I did it. But if you guys want me to add the steering committee component back in here, we can do that. It's kind of, up to you guys.
So I think Dustin, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about that we would be leading the charge on this.
Mhm.
But if the vendor wanted a larger group, we could pull the steering committee from the 5-year master plan back in and ask those people to participate. So I actually, and I can share this document, language with you, had as one of the parties that possibility of the steering committee. So it was right in there that there was another group that we could reach out to.
And to me, it's kind of, I would say as a consultant, they're going to question who they're answering to. I like the idea of them going out into the community and, having kind of, little town hall meetings with all the little towns and, kind of spread it out. I would also say that's probably going to be more expensive. More meetings and more small meetings rather than a steering committee. So it, maybe a combination of the two, but that's part of what I would anticipate them asking what you guys are wanting.
So Dustin, if we don't do the community involvement, will that limit at any level the effectiveness of this. If like the DNR looks at it and says, oh, you didn't have any community input into your trails master plan, we're not happy with that. It seemed to me that we probably ought to have a hybrid approach. This board will be the ones making the decision, but we still think we probably ought to have some community input, checking off all the boxes that may be required for grant funding.
Yeah, and which is true. But a steering committee should cover that. It's just a matter of how, it's always going to look better if you truly went out, and, had multiple meetings around the county.
Right,
But if your steering committee, has good representation, broadly across the county, then I think you'd be good. The only exception to that, I would say, is that little note I put in there about the Amish.
Right,
right.
right. Mhm.
Yep, and we know that's a big issue. It's been driven home very effectively that there really is a trails problem up in that section of the area we're gonna have to deal with.
It's a trails opportunity, Rob.
Trails opportunity.
Mhm.
Does anyone on the board disagree with the fact that we want to be essentially the steering committee?
I think we had talked
No.
about
Yeah.
that previously.
I think that I'm with you for sure.
Okay,
And
When-
if you can, I left it kind of vague, number of meetings. Again, that they're gonna figure out or budget X number of meetings, and a cost for each meeting. So, I think the more you guys can anticipate, then you'll get a firmer number or, kind of an apples to apples number from each consultant. But personally, I kind of like to get a feel from the consultant how involved they are going to do or be with that.
Mhm.
And that gives me, again, personally, gives me a better feel for how they're going to fit with what I'm wanting.
right. So I scroll down as you see to your project schedule template, which is something that we had talked about last time and we're largely in favor of. I believe, I can speak for everybody in terms of the proposal. In terms of the meetings with us and the meetings with the public.
Just heads up, there's some Parks Department language in there versus board.
Yeah, we'll need to wordsmith all the Parks Department into Parks Board.
That's a quick
Yeah.
search and replace.
That'll get us in trouble if we don't read it all. I had a question on the, which I think is appropriate because I saw it in previous RFPs. There's in what Dustin provided was an evaluation criteria. My question is this standard? Because I don't want to be beholden to an evaluation criteria that may not I have not looked at the detail, but it might not represent what we want.
This is essentially what we were looking at earlier for the evaluation criteria. And from what I understand, it's pretty standard in
Okay.
the public sector. Yeah.
And that's what I don't know, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'd hate to all of a sudden be in a meeting and, oh, our evaluation criteria, put 25 points on something that we don't care about and really change the appropriate selection.
Yeah, this is definitely an attorney thing where you make sure that you can prove your decision wasn't termed as arbitrary and
Yeah.
capricious. You had a reason for doing it. And this sort of covers that in case somebody wants to contest.
Yeah,
who
and I
you did
get
it to.
that.
Yeah,
We just need to make sure that it is the criteria that
we
we
want,
want to
Right.
judge by.
Mhm.
And again, I understand it's probably standard and I might be making a bigger deal out of this, but
Dustin, can you chime in on that? I presume you've used essentially this same criteria for numerous projects.
Yeah, it is, and what you guys just described is right, that it's, to kind of cover your behind, in case somebody does question who or why was your choice was. Yeah, this is the one from the Elkhart Goshen plan. Very little change in it.
Again, Dustin, anything else you think that in particular we need to try to nail down yet today? Again, what I would ask for once we do this is approval from the board to submit this to county administrator, the county attorney to review. Get their approvals so that we can start looking at dates and things.
I'm okay with that. I think we just need to formally approve with the caveat that it gets scrubbed with no tangible changes.
I agree.
All right, so can we make a motion for that then?
Sure.
Sure, well, I mean, kind of borrowing from Mike's language there, I would make a motion that we approve this to move forward with the process with some of the changes that we talked about with the departments to the board. That would be it.
I'm happy to second. I'm
Any-
also happy to later on do a wordsmithing of the final one if needed.
And I think that what we're proposing is not going to prohibit us from doing that.
Yeah.
There will obviously be a point when the attorney has reviewed it, that it's going to get frozen in stone, but I don't think it's today.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I will get this over to Mrs. McSherry for whatever they do on their side of the house.
Excellent.
I have been working on the Chinworth Bridge extension. Dustin, let me forward to you. I'll share with you what I've been working on for the Chinworth Bridge, and maybe you and I can try to get that nailed down as well.
Before we advance on that, I would like to, usually as the president, Rob is the guy who gives the accolades, but I would like to congratulate Rob and thank him for his work on taking the lead for the RFP. It was quite nice to have you at the helm. And so thank you for doing that.
I appreciate that. Feel like I didn't get it done as timely as I would like. Let me tell you, this weather's killing me this week. But we'll get it done. Get it done. Is that okay, Dustin? You and I work on that specific Chinworth extension?
He's not.
He's not in, yes.
Sorry,
He's madly trying to press his
couldn't
speech
find my
button.
mute button. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
The what's the timing on that? And the only reason I'm asking is that I'm actually going to be out of town next week, but I'll have access to computers and stuff. So
Oh, we're certainly not expecting you to do this while you're out doing something hopefully fun. It is not super fast. It was part of the county's SIP. It's in the ARPA/HELP funds. So it's just something we're working through. I don't know, Rhonda, do we have any timelines at all yet for any of this? Yeah. Right. And we're going to be at that meeting.
But it seems that we have the basic template. So it's really only the scope of work. I think.
So some of the documents I stored today were the actual, so a few of the actual contracts from Winona Lake. And if you start looking at the engineering level, it is definitely
Okay.
a different construct
Okay.
than this.
Okay,
And I really, he's not on, but talking about accolades, thank you, Craig Albach, for sending us a lot of documents. Those are all stored in our shared directory for you to look at. Yeah, you're at some level, you're right, but it is, the result is much different.
okay. Yeah, and previously, when we went through our timeline, we were hoping by early August to have actually 3 RFPs ready to go.
Right.
And yeah,
I think I know from my standpoint, it's been more than I thought it was gonna be.
okay,
But I think we're tracking fairly well to at least the 2 primary
Right,
pieces.
yeah.
yeah.
So,
And
Well, the
again, I
third one
looked,
might be quite easy.
looking at Craig's really gave me a much better understanding of what we want and what we need to have in there. So I still think we're in a heavy learning curve
Okay.
on all this stuff, so.
Okay.
And
it sounds like MACOG is able to help us with that.
right, which is awesome.
Yeah, we just need to be flexible on our timeline.
Well, any further discussion from board members on anything?
Yeah, so in preparation for the August 1st meeting, we still need to prepare PowerPoints. I think Rob, you and I are on the docket to present
Right.
the 3 projects. Now that I'm back and available in town, I'm just, what I'm gonna recommend is that I get time with you, Rob,
Yep.
and also with Amy to kind of go through kind of the process, and I'm happy to create the 3 PowerPoints. I don't think that's gonna be a large load. But what I'll do is I'll share those with the board for input and feedback prior to August 1st. And honestly, I hope to start having them trickle out for your review, probably starting on Monday,
Perfect.
if that's acceptable to the group.
The only other thing that I can update is that on the 27th, I'll be having individual one-on-one. Well, actually, Aggie's gonna join me with the meeting with Richard Haddad. And then I have a meeting with Sue Mitchell the same day on the 27th. And I'm still working the calendar to get with
Stephanie.
yes. Oh, yeah, we got Stephanie too. So thank you for the reminder. I was thinking it was coming up with-
Foundation?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How are we doing I think I was secondary on all of the potential stakeholders, but I'm happy to again, I'm back in town now for this foreseeable future. I'm happy to join any discussions.
So as it turned out, Rob, Troy and I were number 1 with pretty much everybody, except for the additional people we may
Okay.
want to add to the potential to meet with leader list. And Mike, you had only signed up as the number 2 on 1, and then Matt hadn't signed up on any of them. He may have just overlooked it.
I feel like I must have overlooked it too.
You
But
know,
I'm
we've got
happy
them
to
all
help out.
covered.
Yeah, and if they're all covered, I'm happy to help with
Yeah.
All right.
any of them.
And I sent you all the summaries of the 2 meetings that I did earlier this week. And thank you, Troy, for joining me on the one with Brad Jackson. I think it might be a really good idea for us to meet with KEDCO
Oh,
as,
I can take care of that.
and just, I want to make sure that they're aware of how much information we have about economic
Mhm.
development benefits of our top priorities, so that they aren't perplexed in any way.
I've met fairly regularly with Alan from Kedco. I can't say that we covered all those, that topic in enough detail, but I'm happy to take the lead with Alan to
Yeah.
to have
And-
that discussion.
Yeah, and now that Terry Sweeney is there too, I don't know if he's been brought on
Hmm.
board as much. So that would be good to include him.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to join somebody with that meeting. I don't need to take the lead on it,
I'll
especially
take-
since you have a relationship there.
And I don't know if he was on the original list, but Bob Vito with OrthoWorks would probably be important,
Yeah.
especially with
Especially now.
the new budget allocation to OrthoWorks for the region. So happy to take the lead on that too. And
Okay.
once I have time set up, I can see if anyone else is available.
And the person on the list that no one had signed up next to is Steve Moriarty with the, excuse me, the County Highway Department. And I don't know if any of us want to sign up to do that one. I'm always happy, but I don't have any relationship with him.
I don't know him either, but I think he's actually a critical stakeholder to speak to.
I believe there's no,
I knew the old
Probably not.
highway superintendent. I can't remember his name though now, but he's the fellow that I worked with to get the county cycling lanes mapped.
Hmm.
But he's retired, so.
Do you
I'll
wanna
take the
go-
lead on that one too, I guess.
So if you, and I'd be happy to go with you.
Okay.
Okay.
I just will have to find his contact information.
oh, I can send you his email.
Okay, if you can.
I'll send out an email so everybody can find the link to this list again.
It's saved in the stored directory, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in there.
I think everything we've done in that fashion, I
Is in
have
the-
now saved
okay.
in the stored directory.
Okay, great.
I hope. If you think something's missing, let me know and I'll get it moved over.
Oh, and then letter of support. So we still have Dustin on the line. I just want to make sure that the Syracuse Wallasey Trail Group has gotten a letter of support from us for their next
What's this
level
one?
trails
Let me see.
application. And there seems to maybe be confusion, because Rob signed one, but they haven't confirmed. The volunteer that contacted me said, we don't seem to have that.
Then I think we probably just sort of sign another one and be done with it.
Dustin, do you have any knowledge of that?
I honestly don't.
Fine.
I kind of in the middle of things that between, I mean, literally physically in the office here, I'm between Donnie and Caitlin. And, I heard you guys talking earlier that Donnie may have that letter, and Caitlin talked with Dan, earlier this week. So there's like literally things happening on either side of me, but I'm not 100% clear on what exactly is going on.
And it's very possible the volunteer that contacted me only has some information, and I left a message for their new director and didn't hear back from her. So, okay,
But
done.
I think
I will make
ours
sure
went to
they
the
get it.
Webster. I don't think ours went to the Syracuse Wallace Trail people. And that may be where the distinction
That's
lies.
where it is. Okay,
It went to the North Webster people, and this is coming from the Syracuse Wallace Trail people.
okay,
So
okay.
And if-
opposite ends of the same trail.
They also have leadership changes too, so
Yep.
it could be lost in
So,
the mix.
okay, great. And Rhonda, I'll leave you a copy of the letter that Rob signed. I think that would be sufficient. Thank you.
Anything else for today then? I think this is our shortest meeting so far. Whether that's good or bad, I will leave up to you.
Do we need to have a meeting before the third week of August? I know we have special things happening.
I don't know at this point in time. I think I need to get together with Marcia and make
Okay.
sure I understand what their timeframes are.
But we don't have time to schedule one. Well, I guess we desperately could before August 1st, but I don't know if that's gonna be necessary
I
for
don't-
us to
I
do
don't
it
think
before
it's
we
necessary.
present. And I suspect we'll have better, I'm hoping we have better direction after that August 1st meeting on next
Okay.
steps.
Right.
Okay.
And then we can react to that.
I'm pretty sure that we are advised that we were probably not gonna be able to put the RFP out until at least the August 1st meeting anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna lose a lot of time.
Okay. So this is connected but slightly different. I signed up to do something on Tuesday, August the 15th. Community Action Council, and I'm supposed to do like maybe a 15-minute, maybe a presentation. It was something that Corey brought up. Carrie, rather, yes.
Yeah. Is that at 11:30? Do you have a?
Yeah,
Cause
I
I've
think
got
it's
one
11:30.
meeting for PB request by Carrie Mike to cover on my calendar. The 15th of August.
Tuesday, August 15th, 11:30. It's just if we aren't going to meet until after that, I thought I could maybe clarify if anybody had more information about it.
And I know I am out of town that day now, so that's why I'm not. Yeah. Did you have that in your calendar, Mike? You're looking like, no.
It sounds familiar.
Well,
It's on my calendar. Our PowerPoint's ready to go. I'm
Yeah.
just not clear on the purpose and the audience.
then I would suggest you probably just reach out to Carrie.
I'll happy to do that.
And then we
My
can cover it.
suggestion.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else then? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Great.
So
Yes. Yes. Yeah, clarify that. Or clarify what
Yeah.
what the restrictions are.
Nice to get a broader base